Presented by FedEx. It is day 2. The Steelers will once again be in pads here at Heinz Field. I'm your host, Missi Matthews, joined once again by Mike Prisuta. Day 1 was exciting. I think we worked out some kinks. We feel a little bit better about our vantage point and getting a chance to watch practice. It was good to see football back, though, Mike.
Oh, it was outstanding. You know, I got some feedback on the show, and people were telling me I was grinning incessantly, and that's not normally me. I'm not.
You're not that happy.
I'm not dour. I'm not necessarily one of those guys that goes around smiling all the time. But boy, you know, we've heard it from the players, Missy, and I think you and I are feeling the same thing, albeit at a different level. But just to be back in this facility, to be back to doing something that resembles what we know and love, and you know, to be back with the team, right? You and I are teammates. They're teammates. Everybody behind the camera is a teammate, and we're doing it again. We're not in the basement. We're out of the house.
We're out of the house.
We're at a football practice, and they're playing actual football. I'm liking this.
Absolutely. As I said, the pads are on once again for the second day of the practices that we are allowed to watch and take notes and learn from. The players definitely have that energy as well. Anybody you've talked to on Zoom, Joe Hayden talked about it this morning. I will say it is just a little bit weird, though, Mike, because there is really nobody in this building. We are so used to Heinz Field just being jam-packed. But there you see Marquise Pouncey. He was excused by Coach Tomlin yesterday for personal reasons, back out there on the field getting ready for day 2 of practice. And just to quickly go over some notes, yesterday was approximately 90 minutes of practice. The Steelers are allowed to gradually ramp that up today just to 105, but that's a little bit more time. They can have the pads on, they can hit, they can do things in a football setting. Before it was just the walkthrough in the weight room, so that is a big deal. Also, number 7, we watched him a lot yesterday. We have not had our eyes on him just yet. Again, practice starting at 1:30, so I'm sure everybody's trickling out right now down there on the field. And then Dave DeCastro, James Washington, and Chris Wormley, Coach Tomlin said all of those guys are day-to-day dealing with some minor injuries, so we'll see what their availability is, as Coach Tomlin likes to say today.
Yeah, and we already got a look at Marquise Pouncey back in the pads. That was good to see. And
I bet he'll be loud, too.
I bet.
I bet we'll hear him from up here on the Ford Fan Zone.
I bet he will. Mike Tomlin, as he had said last week, anybody that's missing time, it's considered relatively minor. There aren't as yet any concerns about long-term absences and missing significant time, although, you know, put significant in the air quotes, because 14 padded practices this year, they're all pretty significant, Missy.
Absolutely, and it is such a crunch time. I know I said that yesterday, but it really is. There's no preseason games, and I do feel like we should let the fans know there is a pool report that we get at the end of every day that the local media works on together to form, and there isn't going to be very specific things, which route guys were running, what positions they were playing, because that is something we're used to being able to report at training camp, but due to that competitive advantage, I'm pretty sure no teams out there want to be giving away any secrets, because it is a weird thing that you don't have preseason tape to go by to try to learn about what's new about this offense or defense, etc., or new players.
Yeah, and for example, how that applied to yesterday, we could not tell you who was filling in at center. We could tell you that Marquise Pouncey wasn't here.
But we did see who was taking snaps during this position, so we were allowed to say that.
We could say that. Can't do Ben Roethlisberger stats during the 2-minute drill. Boy, that's really going to bother me. Can't talk about how many punts bounced out of bounds inside the 5-yard line. Can't talk about how many tackles a certain player had during the 11-on-11 tackling period. So it is going to be a little bit less than what the fans have gotten used to. But I can tell you, Missy, this pool report thing, off and running and then some.
Can I just jump in real quick? Because I did turn around while you were speaking. Dave DeCastro is once again in a T-shirt and ball cap. He's kind of right near Pouncey. I don't know if we can get over and get him. So it doesn't look like he's going for the second day in a row, and also standing next to him in almost the same attire is Alejandro Villanueva. So thanks to the heads up from our producer, Alec, who's down on the field and has a better view than us. But I was able to confirm that with my own eyes. So sorry, Mike, I didn't want to cut you off, but that is just a little bit of news we are able to put out there right now.
No, and it actually leads to where I was going, because I was talking about this inaugural practice pool report yesterday. Right. And it said, among other things, injuries, David DeCastro, then parentheses, in black shorts,
there he is,
shirt, socks, and hat, walked with position group, close parentheses. So we got the sartorial rundown on Dave DeCastro, and you can see him there. That is that Al next to him?
That's Al Villanueva. So we'll have to say cutoff shirt, ball cap.
Gray shirt, black hat, 5 o'clock shadow. In some instances, it is obsessively detailed, and in others, certain details are left to the imagination. So that's just how we're going to roll this year.
Hey, it is what it is. We are glad to be back, glad for football. So as we said, players are trickling out here. We were also, right before we came on air, Mike, we were able to see Minka Fitzpatrick just hanging out, talking to Tom Bradley. A lot of those guys, that's what they do. The coaches are always usually the first group out before practice, and then it's that pre-practice chatter where everyone catches up on things probably not football related, right?
Yeah, but those guys were probably talking about Penn State and Alabama from back in the days. Or maybe they were talking about today's schedule. Who knows? That was fun yesterday, and it was interesting to me. And I can tell you this because it is on the practice portal included, in the practice report, that at the last period of the day, they took the helmets off. Mm-hmm. So we've heard a lot from Mike Tomlin about wanting to take advantage of every one of these 14 padded practices and getting the most out of every rep and every period and every day's work. But at the same time, you got to be careful. You can't do too much too soon. You can't give the players more than they're ready to handle. And while everybody has arrived in really good shape, they still have to get into quote-unquote football shape. So I thought that was interesting yesterday that we saw kind of both sides of that equation, Missy, the hitting in backs on backers and the live tackling period. But then at the end of the day, dial it down into neutral, almost like that cool down period you do when you get off the treadmill. You're still on there, maybe kind of walking at a more than normal pace, but not quite a run. Everything in its time and place.
All right, I'm still trying to keep my eyes on the quarterbacks as much as possible. Mason Rudolph is out there warming up. I saw Devlin Hodges, still no sign of 7 in terms of what he will be doing today at practice. But one of the other things in the practice report that I did like was just some of the observations about Matt Canada. I think we want to know what he's going to do with this offense, and to help with it, but also just in terms of how he is helping these younger quarterbacks. And part of it under there was that, Mason Rudolph, Paxton Lynch, Devlin Hodges were throwing while he was watching him, while Randy and Ben Roethlisberger were doing something else. So, and I also am just receiving word from down on the field that James Washington is not going to practice again today, so we can add him on the list again today, day to day. So far, Dave DeCastro, Al Villanueva, and James Washington not dressed at this point, looking like they are going to go for today's practice.
And that is, not a deal breaker necessarily, but in James Washington's case in particular, he's a guy who had a pretty good second half last year. He's made some strides since coming to the Steelers, but they do have Chase Claypool, second-round draft pick, the highest draft pick for the Steelers this year. They added Eric Ebron in veteran free agency at tight end. And only one football to go around, Missy, and you're looking for more from JuJu Smith-Schuster. You're looking more from James Conner. You're looking for more from Vance McDonald. In all three of those guys' cases, health is going to help determine that. But there's an array of people here that Ben Roethlisberger can use to his disposal should he choose to do so. So for James Washington, considered minor and not a long-term situation, but get well soon, James, because the train's moving. And it's not waiting on anybody.
There is number 7. Our camera is quicker to find him than I was, so we'll have to see if there's anything Ben will be doing today. Again, how much. It's kind of that thing during training camp. Coming off the surgery, of course, that is a main factor into what Ben does and what Ben needs to get ready for the regular season. Because, again, there's no warm-ups, and even Ben himself said, in the perfect world, if there was preseason games, he probably would have went to Coach Tomlin and said, hey, you know what? I actually want to go in there and do a little bit this year, Mike.
And you think he would have done anything? We'll never know. Mike Tomlin will never tip his hand on that. But definitely a different year from Ben Roethlisberger. We heard from Vance McDonald today via the Zoom just before we went on the air here with our stream. And I'm sure we'll get into that into more detail later. But Vance McDonald has been a guy, Missy, that has really emphasized what he sees as a change in Ben Roethlisberger because of spending almost an entire year away from it and realizing what he missed and what he didn't have and how happy he is to be back.
Absolutely. And since we have Ben right here, let me just kind of go from the pool report to recap what happened yesterday. Of course, we will find out today what's going to happen on day 2. But Ben Roethlisberger was in pads and a full participant. He notably did not warm up with the rugby ball that he has used the previous years, but instead just tossed a football. The quarterback returning from elbow surgery did not visibly show any effects of the procedure, though he and his receivers continued to work on timing. And I believe Vance even said today, just having 7 there and the continuity, that is going to be huge.
Yeah, Vance McDonald also said that in his estimation, Ben Roethlisberger is all the way back. McDonald went on to talk about some of the off-season sessions that the Steelers kind of cobbled together, the players on their own, some workouts at Robert Morris, which if you're an out-of-market viewer is a local university here in Pittsburgh. And Vance McDonald he's often effusive in his praise of Ben Roethlisberger, and today Missi was no exception. He talked about not just how he thinks Roethlisberger is all the way back arm-wise, but about how, quote, the hunger is real and how players can sense that. Quote, guys are just flocking to him. The way he attacks the day is different. He's just so hungry. I love the leadership. And that's a mouthful from Vance McDonald, who normally is not shy about singing Ben Roethlisberger's praises. But I think a veteran guy and a guy who's been a teammate and a guy who's had a locker next to Roethlisberger for the last couple of years, the words carried a little bit of weight.
For sure, for sure. And also, we got a chance to hear, Mike, this morning from Joe Hayden, who it looks like he is probably going to get a Vets day off for Joe Hayden today, as it looks right now, as practice is about to start in about 4 to 5 minutes here at Highsmith. We are going to talk a lot about the rookies. I know Steelers Nation Unite. Myself, we tweeted, asked what questions you guys have about the Steelers rookies. So please, you still have time to submit them. We're going to get to as many as we can as we go through this class. And when we talk about Joe Hayden and what he talked about this morning, Prisuta, a lot of it was about wide receiver Chase Claypool. So let's take a quick listen.
He's impressed me for sure. Just his size, his speed, his ability to adjust to the ball in the air. And then he doesn't really say too much, man. He's just out there every day. I've seen him just working hard, asking questions on the offense, just getting the routes. And he's been doing a really good job. I think he's a great young talent, and his work ethic shows that he wants to be great. He doesn't do too much talking. He just gets after it. So as long as he knows the playbook, as long as he's, him and Ben are on the court of the checks and everything. I mean, I think he has all the physical attributes to be a baller.
All right, and we got a little bit more detail from Joe Hayden as well. Pursuit, I have to give you credit. It was your question, because in the poll report, we did find out that there was a nice catch in the end zone from Ben Roethlisberger to Chase Claypool. So take us through what Hayden did in terms of giving some more details about how nice that was yesterday.
Well, first, let's start with that poll report.
Okay.
The inaugural poll report. Maybe they're just working out the kinks, or maybe this means something. But there's a play mentioned, Vance McDonald catching a pass from Ben Roethlisberger away from safety Terrell Edmonds. Then a little bit further down, Chase Claypool made a leaping catch in the corner of the end zone on a ball from the starting quarterback. Didn't mention who the cornerback was, but Joe Hayden confirming to us that, yes, it was him. And confirming to us that, yes, it was in 7 shots, and confirming to us, yes, it was a back shoulder fade. Fortuitous that we had Joe Hayden on this morning, but that play sticks out to me for a couple reasons. Now, I get that it was the first day in pads. Okay, I'm not ready to plan the parade yet. I'm not ready to start crafting Chase Claypool's bust for Canton. But that play was everything, or at least most of the things we talked about when the Steelers drafted Chase Claypool. Hey, he could potentially do this. Mm-hmm. Well, on the first day, he did it. He turned potential into production. Now think about Joe Hayden tweeting out, not that specific play, but a video that the Steelers put out, right? Of Ben Roethlisberger throwing to Chase Claypool, and Joe Hayden says he's going to be a problem, capital letters, exclamation point. You heard it first from me. This is an 11-year veteran.
A Pro Bowl veteran,
a
too.
Pretty accomplished guy talking about a receiver who's been in the league, relatively speaking, for 10 minutes and has done nothing. And he just, by the way, got the best of Joe Hayden, and Joe Hayden is putting it out
singing his
for
praises.
the world to see and hear. Look at this kid. Look what he can do. And here's some of the things that Joe Hayden, if you allow me to
of course.
continue rambling on here.
Well, we have a good shot at Chase, so let's do it. They are starting the warm-up phase of practice.
Hey, look, he's even going to kick this year. Look at the way he's warming up. Height, weight, speed. Hayden said one of the reasons he sent the tweet out, Missi, was, quote, he's had a couple plays on me in this camp. Yesterday was the first day we were here to see it. It was the first time.
But they've been here for a little bit.
They've been here, and this has apparently been happening. He's a big, fast receiver. He has the ability to adjust to the ball in the air. He has soft hands. As long as he can stay healthy, I think he's going to be a problem. When he says a problem, he means for the other team's cornerbacks, not the Steelers' cornerbacks. But just a great perspective from Joe Hayden, who, again, if he didn't even notice the rookie, if somebody asked him about that play and he said, what's the kid's name, who's number 11, you wouldn't think twice because it's a veteran against a guy who's just taking his initial steps in the NFL. But to see it, at least you get a little snapshot of what it might look like, what they were seeing when they made the pick, why everybody in the organization was so excited when they were able to draft this player. And really a lucky year in that normally receivers this big, this fast, and this tall are not around in the second round. But last year was the mother lode of wide receivers. It was just one of those years. There were a lot of people available at the position, and the Steelers, I think, got one of the good ones, Missi.
Since we've been keeping our cameras on Chase Claypool, I'm sure a lot of people saw if you were looking at the video and not at Prisuta, even though he's pretty too. But James Washington, as we said, no pads on. He does have his jersey on, which is a little bit different than yesterday. So we will see if he's able to do any more. As, of course, we said the poll report said that he kind of ran the perimeter. He was out there. So we'll keep our eyes open for that as well. But moving.
One more thing before we move on.
One more.
Just want to get to the specifics of that play because since we talked to Joe Hayden today, I can. We mentioned back shoulder fade. And Chase Claypool is bigger and taller than Joe Hayden. So Joe Hayden has position in front of him, and he's trying to play the ball. And as Claypool goes up for it, Joe said he wanted to play through Claypool's hands, and he tried to, but it didn't work. Joe Hayden said, I tried to knock the ball out. He wouldn't let me knock the ball out. It was really what's Mike Tomlin? The Mike Tomlinism of the summer so far is boxes checked. Am I reading that right? Is that one of them?
I think that's probably one of a few.
Chase Claypool was checking him yesterday.
All right, let's move on to Alex Highsmith and also Anthony McFarland. We can kind of jump these guys together because of backs on backers yesterday, which Coach Tomlin said the first go-around, you can't really grade much about it because it is a chance for the young guys, a.k.a. that guy right there, number 56, Alex Highsmith, and also Anthony McFarland, number 26, getting a lot of reps. And he said, don't read too much into that. Sometimes you need to teach them how to properly do it. There's Anthony McFarland right there. So I guess what do you make from what Coach Tomlin said and what you were able to glean from the poll report?
The way the poll report described it, a disproportionate number of reps for the rookies and more of an introduction than a final exam. Mike Tomlin pointing out that he's probably going to be more impressed with whatever happens the second time they do,
which could be today,
backs on backers than the first time,
right.
Because it is an introduction, but there is a competition element to it, and that's been a big part of Steelers training camps for a long time now, Missi, and that's not going to change this year just because we're here at Heinz Field instead of St. Vincent. There are certain periods, they call them competition periods,
right.
Backs on backers, third down, what have you, where somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose, either a unit collectively or an individual all by his lonesome. And Highsmith, I think, is going to be a guy we're really going to be keeping an eye on in this training camp because there appears to be a vacancy for backup outside edge rusher to spell T.J. Watt and Bud Dupree. That's why they drafted Highsmith where they did. And we'll see if he can take that ball and run with it.
And he's wearing Anthony Chickalo's old number as well. So we did ask for fan questions. Let's get to one of them to see if we can put Mike to the test. This is from Ted Webb. He says, I know Claypool is getting all the talk as far as rookies, but do you guys think Highsmith will have a chance to contribute this year? You were kind of going along on that. I really do think, though, Prisuta, based on what was said about him, I know he has to still come here and put in the work, just how high the Steelers were on him after the draft, everybody that you spoke to throughout that process, and then now what we're seeing and the chances that he's getting, I think he legitimately does as well.
Yeah, did I mention there's a need as a substitute edge rusher to help spell TJ
Special
Watt,
teams.
and Bud.
There's the more you can do, right?
Special teams, thank you.
I'm sure Danny Smith would love him.
Everybody blows that off, or so it seems, when you're talking about draft picks. Because, oh, boy, we got this guy out of Nebraska. He's really going to help the punt coverage team. It's not necessarily exciting, but it's important, and they have lost some people that were core special teamers around here. You mentioned Anthony Chickalo's no longer wearing
Tyler
number
Matakevich.
56. Dirty Reds no longer wearing number 44. And those contributions matter. They're not going to be as high profile as what you see Highsmith do rushing off the edge, which I think he is going to have a chance to do, and what you're going to see Claypool do, at least situationally on offense, whether that's just running down the sideline and being a jump ball deep threat or a red zone threat, as we saw yesterday. I think both of those guys, even despite these crazy circumstances and no OTAs, and I don't know, what's the preferred snap count missed? Is it 600? Is it 1,000? Is it something in between? These guys have had a more difficult road in transition this year and will continue to have a more difficult road than your average rookie. But the Steelers think they're both special, and they're going to get a chance to prove it.
Their first NFL game will be on Monday night, primetime television, against the New York Giants. We do have the New York Football Giants. You and Labs with that. All right, we do have another fan question before we move on to another rookie. And this one is, what will Anthony McFarland's role be in the backfield, considering we have Connor, Samuels, and Snell already? What are your thoughts here, Prisuta?
Well, I'd say to be determined. The one thing about Anthony McFarland is he has a skill set different than those three guys mentioned in the tweet, James Conner, Jalen Samuels, and Benny Snell. And that's to put your foot in the ground and make a cut and explode through the seam. Now, the Steelers have another quote-unquote speed back on the roster, a guy that we saw a little bit from last year, Kerrith White Jr., who had some moments. He's a guy who was productive at Florida Atlantic, and he is that same kind of burst runner as opposed to Connor and Snell, who are pounders, and Jalen Samuels, who is considered more of a passing game type of contributor from the backfield. But somebody's going to have to play that speed back role, that change of pace, maybe hit home run hitter role. And
Randy Fiechner had good things to say about him when we heard from him. I believe it was last week. I did just find out Eric Ebron looks like he is not going at practice today, potentially just a vet's day off.
We had too much fun yesterday.
I know. I mean, he definitely brought the energy for sure. We're going to talk about the tight ends in a little bit. Let's stick with the rookies and Antoine Brooks, another guy from Maryland who the Steelers drafted this year. What do you see he can do for the Steelers this season if he is able to carve himself out a role in any shape or form? There he is, number 25.
Yeah, I think it would be, sub-package stuff, and he's probably got a tougher path than the other guys, because I think defense is more complicated, particularly for a younger player.
And they returned a lot of starters.
And they returned a lot of starters. Now, there might be some schematic tweaks in the sub-package stuff based on Mark Barron not being here anymore, but all that stuff's complex and it's hard to learn. There's another guy that special teams is screaming in neon, because the Steelers had good special teams last year. They were a top 10 special teams unit according to a good buddy of mine, Rick Goslin, formerly of the Dallas Morning News, who has rated special teams units forever, and he's so good at that NFL coaches take him at his word when they do their evaluations. But all things considered, a good year for the special teams last year, but a lot of changes. And believe me, it goes way deeper when you're rating special teams than whether or not your kicker makes all his field goals and whether or not you have a return guy who can take it to the house the way Deontay Johnson did in Arizona last year on a punt return. So a lot to sort out on that level. And, again, people might not be as excited about that, Missy, but if you want to talk contributions, what do they say? It's a third of the game, right? Those contributions count.
Right, and I wasn't sure if everybody could hear the horn here on our live stream, but the Steelers are transitioning, to their individual period as well. So let's continue with these rookies, and then we'll kind of get to the tight end position, as I had alluded to. Also, Craig Wolfley will be joining us in just a little bit. But also we have Kevin Dotson and Carlos Davis, two guys that I think even more than Antoine Brooks' pursuit, as you were saying, is going to have a harder time making something happen this year.
Yeah, and your guy Davis has played some nose, and there's an opening there. But Dan McCullers is quietly creating a buzz, and it's hard to say.
Because he's slimming down.
It's hard to say
he's not
that,
Big Dan anymore.
Well, he's still Big Dan. I mean, he's still 6'7". They list him at 352. I'm curious how much weight he has dropped. But you talked a couple days ago on the DV Morning Show about hearing that people were impressed with the condition he was in. Then we heard it from Can Hayward, and then we heard it from Carl Dunbar. So apparently that's real. Doesn't happen immediately for everybody. I think these last two players that we're talking about, the offensive lineman is a fascinating kid, just based on his backstory and the way he speaks. Remember him talking after the draft about how he liked to taunt opponents. We're talking about Kevin Dotson from Louisiana Tech, or is it Louisiana Lafayette?
Ike Taylor.
Yes.
There you go.
He talked about taunting opponents by telling the defense to play before it was to be run, and then they were running it successfully anyway. I think that kid has a future. He looks like a player, but I don't know if it's going to be this year.
All right, I did apologize. We have a social media question about Antoine Brooks, so I do want to get to that since we had tons of fans submit questions. So we really appreciate it. We're trying to involve you as much as possible. This one is, do you think that Antoine Brooks would do good playing behind Rel Island 6, which is Terrell Edmonds' Prisuta?
Yeah, to be determined, like we were saying. I mean, he's got a lot to learn. They're going to try him in a number of roles and see what he seems to have an affinity for while he's playing special teams. And a lot of times these guys kind of carve out a role for themselves if they're going to have one or not.
Right. We will see. It is day 2, so a lot to be determined as they get ready for that Monday night game, which doesn't even seem possible, but September is right around the corner. As I said, we'll get to some more social media stuff coming up a little bit later in the show, but we are going to go to Craig Wolfley in just a little bit, so stand by for that. Wolf, one of those guys, he came in with you, Prisuta. I was joking, him and Tunch grabbed their lunches. They sat in the stands and were hooting and hollering with some of the players down on the field from a safe distance, but you know those two guys would love nothing more than to be down on the field right now.
You know, those two guys are in such sync. When I showed up here today, I did another Zoom media conference from my car in the parking lot across the street. Then I walked over to where we're supposed to enter the stadium, and there is a specific time when they tell us to get here.
Right. You're
supposed to be right across from the Art Rooney statue. And there are a couple of benches there, and Tunch and Wolf had beaten me here, and they were sitting 6 feet apart. Nobody had to tell them. They just did it.
They are quite the tandem. All right, I hope that we have Wolf now. He's not too far from us, but it feels like he's really far apart. Wolf, if you can hear me, I know you want to talk about Stephon Tuitt today and just what you are hoping to see from him as he comes back from injury as well. A lot of talk about Ben, but don't forget about Stephon Tuitt, right?
I can hardly hear. How long do I go?
Hey, Wolf. All right, we are experiencing a little bit of technical difficulties. I promise we will get Craig Wolfley working. This is his first day being without Tunch on the set, so we'll have to maybe work with him a little bit.
I'm not sure what he can add to that. I mean, I think he said it all right there.
All right, I promise we will get there. But tight ends, as you said, you listened to Vance McDonald in your car in the parking lot here at Heinz Field. Vance is one of those guys. We had him on the Steelers Nation Unite huddle a few weeks ago answering fan questions. He just gives very profound answers. At one point, he actually said, give me about 10 seconds to think about that before I respond, and then gave this elaborate answer. But the things that I really like, he said today, is what you had already mentioned about Ben Roethlisberger, that he looks good. The hunger is good, too.
You talk about the interesting things that he says. He was talking at one juncture about playing in stadiums with no fans or very few fans, and how that might actually help some players because it's a lot less distraction. It eliminates the noise. He talked about being able to take advantage of objective space in those situations. Now, I'm not really sure what he's talking about there, but it sounds really intriguing.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds great. Objective space so that you can be assignment sound and technique sound. He also I touched on this earlier, Missi. He mentioned those kind of off-campus throwing sessions that the players got together that were unofficial at Robert Morris. And Vance McDonald talked about a back foot cross-field insane throw was his word. Roethlisberger to Deontay Johnson. And then Vance McDonald said that he said to himself, and I quote, "Golly, he really is back." He used objective space, and he used golly in the same interview.
Before we go over to Wolf, we are looking live at the tight ends as we're still in the individual period. Coach Tomlin, according to the pool report and what we saw yesterday, was over there kind of bringing some intensity as he likes to do as he wanders the field. He's backing up right there, as you can see, as they're hitting the sled right there. But Vance McDonald, also Zach Gentry, somebody that James Daniel, the tight end coach, was asked about, Kevin Rader. There is a group there, and as we said, Eric Ebron appears to be getting the day off today, so we'll get an update from Coach Tomlin after practice as well. But I believe Wolf is good. So, Wolf, if you can hear me, take it away. Tell us about Stephon Tuitt.
Well, thank you, Missy and Mike. Yes, we're here. We're live. We got the gremlins worked out. And I'll say this. You know, it'd be hard to overlook that tremendous smile on the face of Stephon Tuitt yesterday. Whether he was locking out on the sled or locking out on one of the big shaggies or one of the beefalos, the young man had a smile. Why would he have a smile? Well, gadzooks, you think about he's been away from football for so long. You know, when last we saw Stephon Tuitt here at Highsmith or on the practice fields on the south sides, the young man was just rampaging. He was doing a great job. He wasn't just beating guys on the inside. He was beating them up. And I really am excited for the return of Stephon Tuitt teaming with Cam Hayward, because this is one of the few times where my poor math skills really make sense. 1 and 1, Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, add the two together and you get 3. How that happens, all you see with these two guys is the chaos and mayhem they can create in both the A and B gaps. It's going to be a strong year inside for these two Titans, that being especially with Stephon. If they can stay healthy and Stephon can come out, work his uppercut, work his swim, and if he can get to, and the one thing I think about Stephon that would really aid him, if he can get that one-armed lockout the way Cam Hayward does, the way he showed against Quentin Nelson from the Colts last year when he threw Quentin's keister up against Jacoby Brissett and knocked him out of the game. That's what you want to see, that strong, huge, explosive stuff, and I think Stephon Tuitt is ready to roll this year.
All right, Wolf, thank you very much. Good to hear you. Good to hear the word ham hocks thrown into a practice report.
Gadzooks.
Yeah, I mean, all of the Wolf-isms. We talk about Tomlin-isms, but there are Wolf-isms that I have missed greatly, and I didn't really realize it until this very moment.
He keeps them coming, and he keeps inventing new ones. I love that about him. But, you know, Stephon Tuitt, another guy who came up in that Joe Hayden Zoom today, Missy. Joe Hayden asked why he thinks people are perceiving the Steelers as a contender after having missed the playoffs for a couple of years. And he talked about already having a really strong defense, and now you get Tuitt back, and having a lot of skilled players on offense, both at the skill positions and along the line, and now you get Ben Roethlisberger back. So Stephon Tuitt, I guess he picked the wrong year to make a triumphant return, because when Ben Roethlisberger comes back from missing a lot of time, it doesn't really matter who else missed a lot of time. But it mattered that Stephon Tuitt wasn't there. And the point Wolf made at the end there about Hayward and Tuitt together, want to see more of that if you're the Steelers. Those two guys inside on third down and T.J. Watt and Bud Dupree outside, that is a formidable four-man rush before we even get to the type of blitzes they're going to dial up.
Absolutely. And again, we are still in the individual portion, but just, you know, taking a glance over down at the field, Ben Roethlisberger is participating in this. So good to see for especially those young guys. You talked about Vance McDonald as well. And I know Eric Ebron isn't out there. He is out there, but he is not practicing today. Let me preface that. But tight ends coach James Daniel, we had a chance to hear from him right before practice started, right after Vance. And when he was asked about Ebron, he just said his calling card in this league has been pass catching ability, his quickness, his route running ability. That's what we would expect for him to bring to the table with the Steelers. And I think everybody has pretty much said it. It's his energy. He's fun to be around. Juju's talked about it. Vance, Ben, everybody. It sounds like Ebron's one of those guys everybody's gravitating towards.
Yeah, and skilled enough to make a difference and draw the attention of the defense. Vance McDonald had some more interesting things to say when Ebron's name came up. He talked about how he's noticing that life's a lot easier for the other tight end.
Yeah.
If you're in a two tight end set, and Eric Ebron is one of the tight ends. Here's another great line from Vance McDonald. I'm going to dunk on everyone now that we have Eric on our team.
And there you have it.
So he's going to dunk on everyone, probably in his objective space. and react by saying golly.
That's a wolfism.
Or the Gadzooks is a wolfism.
Okay,
golly,
that's fine.
Golly was Vance McDonald and Gomer Pyle. You're probably too young to remember Gomer
Yeah,
Pyle.
sorry. That was
Jim
Mason
Neighbors,
Rudolph.
Google it.
That was Mason Rudolph throwing to the tight ends that you're watching live right here. Here goes number 7 again. Oh, they're both working with the tight ends. Okay, sorry. I only saw Mason in the one camera shot, but Ben is also throwing to them as well. Anything else that excites you about this tight end position and having Ebron there and knowing that, he spent so much time, as much as he could, since he became a Steeler with Ben Roethlisberger this offseason?
I like 2, and they're not going to get married to one formation. I mean, you'll see 2 wide receivers, you'll see 3 wide receivers. You'll see 1 back. You might see 2 backs on occasion. But I think a lot of teams are really warming up in the NFL these days to a two tight end approach. I think that gives you tremendous versatility. It's something we've seen the Steelers take great advantage of previously. But as Cam Hayward said yesterday on an unrelated topic, you got to have 2 to tango. And Vance McDonald and Eric Ebron, a lot of potential there. Now, both of these guys have missed time due to injury. Vance McDonald talked about that as well today. But right now, as they start, if you had to sum up this offense, Missi, in one word, it might be options. Because you have options at the wide receiver position. You have options at the running back position. You have options at the tight end position. Ben Roethlisberger is really going to be able to pick and choose. And when you factor in his spontaneity, as JuJu Smith-Schuster has observed here in the early stages of training camp, particularly when you get in a 2-minute situation or a no-huddle situation, man, a lot of stuff is going to be capable of happening.
No doubt, and there is Eric Ebron. We have our camera on him now, sporting the bucket hat. Again, maybe a vet's day off. We'll find out more from Coach Tomlin after practice today. Anything else you take away from some of the Zooms we got to hear from Coach Tomlin after practice yesterday, and anything else today, Prisuta, before we have to wrap it up here?
Did I mention that, according to the practice report, Chase Claypool caught a touchdown pass from Ben Roethlisberger? Joe Hayden subsequently filled in the blanks, back shoulder fade. It was on Hayden. Hayden had position. Chase Claypool made the play anyway. I mean, believe me, we're not drawing any immediate conclusions here after the first day or on the second day. It's going to be a process. At least I'm not trying to draw any conclusions, but there's just something that resonated with me. What a development for the Steelers to start camp. It's been kind of off kilter for everybody in just about every aspect of life of late, but they finally got back into camp, and here comes the shiny new toy, and there's the old franchise quarterback playing with it and having a great time doing it. That's pretty good day one in my book, Missi.
I actually went back into my draft notes after the Steelers took Chase Claypool and just some of the things that Mike Tomlin and offensive coordinator Randy Fichtner said about him, his rare type of size and speed, his wingspan, the fact that he always finds a way to score and volunteers for special teams. I know we were talking about that earlier with Alex Highsmith. This is a guy that they said at Notre Dame volunteered to play special teams.
And also like that Joe Hayden talked about how he doesn't say much. He's
quiet learner.
He's coming here to play, not to talk about what he's going to do. He's coming here to do stuff.
Exciting, and there's number 11 once again with the rest of the wide receivers. We're getting closer and closer to the portion where we will not be able to show any more live practice. So we do want to get to some of our social media. Of course, there is a keyword today, Prisuta. I know it's been a long time since we had a keyword.
Touchdown.
No, that's not the keyword. It is our Terrible Towel giveaway. So for everybody who is watching on any of the Steelers social media platforms, comment today. The keyword is rookies. Rookies plural because Chase Claypool. And we talked about the rookies. So rookies is your keyword.
Oh, watch that front row.
That's pretty close to us. We're up high, but that's pretty close to us.
I think he felt that one a little bit. You got to learn the nuances of his new home stadium.
Ebron's clapping somebody up there, and there's some of the other rookies as we get our final look before they move into the competition period, as you like to call it, Prisuta. There is the horn. So we do want to get to some of your Terrible Towel photos that you submitted to us, because it is Terrible Towel Tuesday. I actually almost forgot that it is Tuesday. Again, our keyword today is rookies. So you can comment on any of the social media platforms to try to win in our Terrible Towel giveaway. But yeah, look, I mean, the Terrible Towel really goes everywhere. And everybody has a lot of them. But I think some people have sacred ones. I know Billy Gardell, friend of your program, somebody I got to host a draft show with. And he is very his Terrible Towel is very special to him and what he does with it and when he uses it.
Yeah, most people have a big game towel and just a normal towel for a run-of-the-mill game. It's an amazing phenomenon, and it's been going on for a long time, and it's not slowing down, is it?
We like it. We like it. So continue to tweet us questions. We want to get everybody involved as much as possible. We're going to try to do some more giveaways. I don't think you're going to find them here.
Huh?
Nope. Just me. I don't have one on me. That's shocking. But, here we go. We have another fan question from Gina. Are you nervous about skipping preseason, going straight into the games that count? This was replying to my question about the rookies. Do you think that's something that they think about or have to be talked to about maybe from the coaching?
Oh, they meant them.
The rookies, yeah. Sorry.
It says, are you nervous?
No.
Personally, no, because I don't have to really worry about it. I do think play is going to be scattered the first month. I think as hard as these staffs are going to work, and particularly on special teams, I think you're going to see some stuff where you kind of, didn't see that coming. They'll work it out, but I would think a couple of preseason games would be my ideal number. 4 is too many, in my humble opinion. None is that's going to factor into the regular season.
Well, think about just what Coach Tillman talks about every year when we're in training camp at Latrobe and they get ready for that first preseason game, and he talks about being under the lights and is it too big for guys? It's also, hey, we get on this plane. We then get on a bus. We then go to a team hotel. Here's how we work. Here's how this schedule is. And that's something that you can use from the preseason standpoint to teach a guy or at least put them through so that first
Getting
time.
to the airport.
They're not. Well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things. Figure all the new faces. Pittsburgh is very new to them for many things. They might not have even been to the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex on the south side. They know Heinz Field. They've never been to Latrobe. So next year for training camp, that's going to be something they're going to learn as well. So I do think from that standpoint, that's going to play a factor into it. And as you said, special teams, maybe communication, that's where it's even more important.
Yeah, and you're doing it for the first time and maybe haven't gone over it a ton in practice. But I loved your point about just the detail about where to go and how to get there. I mean, it's happened. Guys have missed planes. I mean, things have happened. Not a lot, but you never know. And this year you really don't.
Got to go through some tunnels to get there.
Yeah, bridges and tunnels.
That's Pittsburgh. All right. Heather wanted to ask one of the rookies' favorite athlete now or growing up. I don't know if any of them. I think we did some social questions with them, Heather. I will have to dig. I'm not sure about that. But do you have a favorite athlete?
Growing up?
Yeah.
Mike Ditka.
Okay. That makes sense.
My parents were from Aliquippa, and my mom taught him in school. And
there you go.
He was a big deal in our house.
Okay. I actually just let's go to this one. This is from Tam Lindsay with the contract status, next year of the O-line and tight end and tight cap space. Is this a good opportunity for, I believe that's Kevin Rader, to be a starter next season?
That's Kevin Rader?
No, wait. I don't know whose handle that is. I'm going to have to look it up.
AKDD7696.
All right. Let me look it up.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, you know what? That's Kevin Dotson.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense with the O-line. I didn't recognize it at first.
Now, Bonnie from Scotland is clearly more lit than I am because
well, we're excited that Bonnie from Scotland's watching our program, and we hope she got to see her question up there.
How about Bonnie from Scotland? What were the odds?
No.
Don't they say that all the time? Bonnie, that's like a Scotland thing?
Oh, I don't know.
It's a phrase, it means something. Anyway,
we could be way off here.
I think he's a player, and I think he's going to be heard from. I'm not sure how quickly.
Okay. All right. We have time for one more question here from social. This is from John. What players around, past or present, do the rookies remind you of? That's a deep one.
Yeah, I haven't really seen enough of them. I mean, the last receiver, I'll just use Claypool because it's Chase Claypool Day here at the old
I feel
ballpark.
like it's Chase Claypool training camp for you.
Hey, it might be. We're limited in what we can talk about.
That's right.
When there's something on the
fair.
daily practice report, I'm taking that ball and running with it. But, Martavis Bryant was a guy that had a really unique skill set with speed and size. And I think Plexico Burris, similar physical skill set. I think Plex is a little bit bigger and Claypool's a little quicker if I'm remembering right. But a couple of guys that stand out to me is not your everyday run-of-the-mill 5'11", jitterbug, water bug, scatterbug kind of Smurfy guy. I mean, these guys are developing monsters that can move.
And the Steelers kind of know how to draft them too. They have good history with that.
It's worked before.
All right, that is going to do it for today's edition of Training Camp Live presented by FedEx. Again, today's practice, roughly 105 minutes. Following practice, you can catch Coach Tomlin's post-practice press conference live. That was a lot of alliteration. And then we'll have the training camp wrap-up show to recap everything
a lot of alliteration for anxious anchors, to quote broadcast news.
It's time for a water break. All right, thanks so much for joining us today, guys. That's it from Heinz Field. We will see you back here tomorrow.